There are some people that say the president cannot do that can only be done through the State Department. Okay, we'll get to it. Carrie Pickett from the Washington Examiner says if Antifa is designated as a terrorist organization, anyone associated with the group could be prosecuted under a RICO statute. It's a racketeering statute. From Brian Cates from the Epoch Times, this means all federal military and intelligence powers of the United States government may now be brought fully to bear on these goons, and those funding, enabling, and supporting them both inside the U.S. and outside. Good. So get to it. At the time of this taping, President Trump has not given an address to the nation about this. I am sure he is crossing his T's and dotting his I's and conferring with as many people as possible as far as the actions that need to be taken. And what are some of the other reactions that are occurring? Well, Hollywood celebrities have created a fund, not for the law-abiding business owners that have lost their businesses, but they've created a fund for the looters and the rioters so that they can be bailed out of jail. We need to keep a track record of who those celebrities are. I can tell you I will never go to a movie of theirs, watch them on TV, go to a concert of theirs. I will advocate on my radio show who those people are, out them, so that others know that these celebrities are playing with the deep state that want to strip you of your freedoms and liberties. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat, that whole right-left axis is a bunch of garbage as far as I'm concerned. It's up and down. Up being freedom and down being oppression. And these dudes who are creating funds for these criminals to get out of jail so they can wreak more havoc and destroy more businesses and potentially put more people's lives in harm's way. Oh no, I'm not going to let that go. But in addition to Hollywood celebrities, the mayor of New York, de Blasio, his daughter was arrested for being involved in not a peaceful protest, but in a riot where objects were thrown, fires were started. Joe Biden's staff, I think 13 of them at the last count that I heard, were donating money for these rioters and looters to make a reappearance. Where are Pelosi and Schumer? I mean, I know, they're deep state puppets. Have you heard one condemnation from them about the rioting and the looting and the destruction? No. Why? Does that surprise you? It should not. Because they're puppets of the deep state. They're owned and operated by them. Which brings me to Christopher Wray, the current director of the FBI. One of the, I believe, next moves the president should make, he should fire that guy so fast you wouldn't know what hit him. Who would I put in there? I talked about it on the radio show yesterday with Tracy Beans. Richard Grenell. Yeah, the guy who was the acting director of national intelligence, who freed up huge amounts of information that his predecessor, Coates, refused to do. Makes you wonder what's going on with Coates. Or what was going on with Coates. A little leverage, buddy? By the deep state? Yeah, I think so. But Wray, Christopher Wray and the FBI and the predecessor to Wray, Comey, and his predecessor, Mueller, were so intent on removing a duly elected president of the United States and framing Donald Trump and framing General Flynn, that they let this Antifa organization grow and prosper to the point where they could pull off a coordinated attack in dozens of American cities around our country. The FBI was negligent for this to occur. They were too busy trying to frame Trump and Flynn and God knows how many other people rather than doing what they're supposed to do. Was that by accident? I don't think so. More puppets of the deep state, just a little more stealth. How many people in the bought-off lamestream fake media have you been hearing calling the FBI out on this? Their negligence. Where are they? Too busy raiding Roger Stone's home at 6 o'clock in the morning with 4,300 people or how many they went after him with. Come on. The FBI has been negligent for this to occur. Their counterintelligence division, their counterterrorism division, all of them, negligent. They were looking the other way, allowing this cancer to get bigger, to become more deadly, while they were too busy framing innocent people. John Brennan, the former director of the CIA, oh, he's a deep state puppet like you can't believe. We've dissected that piece of scum many times on our platform. John Brennan approves of the riots and looting. Oh, like a good deep state puppet. Brennan stated national outrage about racial discrimination, hateful bigotry, and injustice of unequal opportunity is necessary. National outrage is necessary for real change. Divisive rhetoric must be voted out of office. We need a president who works to heal the nation, not further divide us. Talk from the big divider himself, John Brennan. Key player in the illegal surveillance that occurred to Donald Trump, General Flynn, and thousands of other American citizens that they saw as political opponents. John Brennan. I went to medical school at Northwestern University in Chicago. There is a person at the undergraduate school, a guy by the name of Stephen Thrasher. He's the Daniel H. Renberg Chair of Social Justice and Reporting at Northwestern University, where he is also an assistant professor of journalism and a faculty member of the Institute of Sexual and Gender Minority Health and Well-Being. He characterizes the riots, the destruction, the looting as a proportionate response. I kid you not. When destroying a police precinct is a reasonable reaction, he titles an article. As any military tactician or social justice organizer can tell you, direct action gets the goods. The destruction of a police precinct is not only a tactically reasonable response to the crisis of policing, it is a quintessentially American response and a predictable one. It's a predictable one when there's no rule of law. And that's what the deep state wants. Look, that cop in Minneapolis, Chauvin, whatever the hell his name is, putting his knee on George Floyd's neck was beyond sick. Beyond evil. And he should be held accountable under the rule of law. But George Floyd is not the first person who's had a totalitarian's knee on their neck. This is what the deep state's all about. The deep state's all a bunch of totalitarian communist thugs. And they're all about oppression and stamping out freedom. It's interesting, the timing of these riots. Right when this entire 4-year goat rodeo of a Russian hoax collusion issue was being unfurled for the public to see. Now they're distracted. Deep state, what they do, big distraction. Look over here at the shiny mirror, the riots, the protesting, the looting. But let's just let this stuff over here that's coming out. Well, just don't pay any attention to that. What's coming out? The fact that the deep state totalitarian thugs, and let's give them names: Obama, Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Mueller, Strzok, Page, McCabe, Baker, Lynch, Holder. They've had their Pelosi, Schumer, all of them. They've had their collective knees on the throat, on the neck of every American. And in particular, the ones that they've had out front, they've had their collective knees on the throat of President Trump and General Flynn. Just look at what General Flynn has been through over the past 3.5 years. He's framed. And if it was not for Richard Grenell, the acting director of the National Intelligence, followed by the now director of National Intelligence, Radcliffe, that declassified Grenell and released Radcliffe the transcripts of that phone call that was supposedly so horrible, where General Flynn, on behalf of the Trump administration, was colluding with the Russians and working on sanctions. In fact, that transcript came out. Do they discuss, by the way, in the bought-off lamestream fake media, of how these transcripts even were collected? Because Richard Grenell stated, before he left as acting director of National Intelligence, the transcripts, the surveillance, was not a product of the intelligence community. In other words, the 17 intelligence components of the intelligence community in our country were not involved in that surveillance. That was his parting gift to freedom out the door, to say that. What was he saying? That this surveillance and the transcripts that came was not a product of the intelligence community. In other words, it came from an illegal source. It came from an outside source. And that's what we've been talking about for over 3 years on Operation Freedom. That's what that interview with General McInerney was about, that we posted yesterday, that you need to listen to. Because that transcript showed what General Flynn did. He didn't collude with the Russians. What he did is he potentially prevented a military confrontation between the United States and Russia by telling the Russians to keep a cool head about things. Because Obama, being the deep state dweeb, and let's face it, the deep state is all about chaos. It's all about conflict. They love wars. Why? Because out of wars they get more power, more control, and more money. And their added benefit is people like you and me that they call useless eaters, and our families die in those wars. You don't see a Rothschild or a Rockefeller or a Lazard or Pincus or Obama or a Bush or a Romney. You don't see them getting killed in these wars that they start. No. It's Smiths and Jones and Jandas and you name it. And you and your family. And General Flynn, in that phone call, diffused the situation that Obama and his deep state puppets were trying to instigate with Russia. And General Flynn's life was stripped from him, as was his entire family, because they were all targeted by this. And the one piece of evidence that could have been released by Wray years ago, or his predecessor Comey, or through the Department of Justice, or through the Director of National Intelligence, was hidden for 3.5 years. The Flynn family put out a statement. And let's face it, if it were not, here's where the deep state erred when it came to General Flynn. They underestimated his family's, and his phenomenal attorney, Sidney Powell's courage, perseverance, dedication, and sacrifice on behalf of our country and every American citizen, because it's not just his freedom on the line, it's every American's. The deep state underestimated that. And here was the Flynn family statement after the release of those transcripts. And very few people have heard anything about these transcripts because the deep state had their entire operation going with rioting and looting and protesting. Exactly what they wanted. They wanted this to fly underneath your radar screen. Have you heard anyone in the bought-off lamestream fake media, including Fox, read the Flynn family statement? I haven't. Well, I'm going to read it for you. Here's what the Flynn family said. After the transcripts were revealed, it showed General Flynn never colluded with the Russians and, in fact, prevented a potential war, a military conflict in what he did. Here's what the Flynn family said. It is a dark day for America as the FBI's corruption and duplicity is fully revealed in the just-released Kislyak transcripts. General Flynn's conversations with Ambassador Kislyak were perfectly proper. Yet the FBI and the Department of Justice concocted lies and robbed our brother, General Flynn, of his position in the administration, of his good name, of his freedom, and of 3 whole years of his life. These transcripts reveal the depravity of FBI leadership who were willing to forge and fabricate a prosecution of one of our nation's most prominent national security officers, a 3-star general, and a veritable war hero, because their candidate did not win the American presidential election. They lied to create a fiction for the public by which they attempted to destroy our brother's name and execute a coup against the incoming administration. This breathtaking and horrifying reality is truly the most disgraceful and shameful chapter in our history, because these actions struck at the heart of our nation's core values: the sanctity of the vote, the peaceful transition of power, liberty, justice, and common American decency and honor. End quote. Yeah. The deep state is about the destruction of the rule of law. Whether it's targeting General Flynn, Donald Trump, you, me, every American, and all of our freedoms. That's what they're about. There's some big decisions that need to be made very quickly. Declaring Antifa a tentacle of the deep state, an international terrorist organization, is a first step. But there needs to be follow-through. When you deal with totalitarian thugs, the only thing they understand is brute force and power. Mayor Daley came to that decision in 1968. Now it's time for mayors, for governors, for the President of the United States to come to a decision. Are they going to let the deep state riot, loot, destroy, and kill? Or are they going to confront it head on? General Flynn, his family, Sidney Powell, confronted the deep state. They didn't fold. And the deep state lost big. They've lost so big that they're trying to cover it up with their riots and their looting, hoping that you won't notice. So what am I going to do? Well, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to call Commandant Klink, Gretchen Whitner's office, and every member of Congress and the Senate and my state legislators. And I'm going to tell them they need to step up and protect the rule of law and every citizen. And if they refuse to do so, then they need to step aside for those of us who love our country and love all of our citizens in our country. I thank you for your time. I hope you'll join us on the radio show every Sunday, 2 to 5 Eastern, and I hope you become a part of our subscription platform. Without our subscribers, this YouTube channel, the radio show, my website, all goes away. 30 cents a day, I believe, the biggest bang for the buck in all the internet. Join us at davejanda.com, become a subscriber. I know you will find the information to be thorough, factual, and very analytical. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail.